we've got the Spinout show.
Yep, the Spinout show.
Talking all about how to spin a product out of an existing business. Pretty fun.
I love it. Super exciting.
It is.
And we just kind of introduced the topic and did the intro last week.
We did.
We're going to be diving into the first principle today.
Yeah. So we're doing a whole series.
Yep.
We're really talking about how organizations that are looking to scale, especially service companies that might struggle with that process.
Yep.
They have a service business where it's hard to scale because your labor has to be parallel to your revenue in many cases. And so for you to grow, it's really through acquisition, which we've talked about, or there's some other models. And in the first episode, we talked about a couple of those growth strategies that companies are able to take.
Yeah.
But one of them for us is vertical growth. So really looking at how do you stay within your vertical and maybe take and create a product that you can sell to the same marketplace, and especially a product that has the ability to scale in revenue at a greater rate than you need to bring on labor and expenses, therefore creating greater profit, greater size, and providing a service business the capability to really change their trajectory.
Yeah.
And so that's what our series is all about. We did the first episode last week, and today's the first principle, like you said.
And we're actually seeing a lot of this, like more and more as we're out there talking to clients, helping clients with this exact thing, and talking to prospects even. We're talking to companies and they're actually doing this. And a way companies are growing is by introducing new efficiencies, new technologies, new products within their maybe fairly traditional business model, a lot of times service businesses. And this is how they're staying competitive. This is how they're gaining an advantage. This is how they're growing. So it is something that I think everybody needs to be thinking about and considering. How do you stay competitive in today's marketplace? You got to be innovating. You got to be looking at what the competition's doing, borrowing from other industries and whatnot. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Let's
it makes sense for one more thing. It makes sense for services businesses because a lot of times they know the secrets of the industry, or they've developed some unique processes or something else that has the opportunity to either enhance their offerings, even enhance their competitors' offerings, or automate and scale what they're doing to a greater level. So it's really cool.
For sure.
But yeah, we're here today to talk about the first principle of our 10 principles related to creating a spinout. And so where do we start? Obviously is finding spinout ideas.
Yep, those ideas.
And one of the interesting pieces is a lot of companies may already have that idea. I'm a service business. We're entrepreneurs. You have entrepreneurial minded people in the organization, and they're sitting there and they're going, wow, here's a cool idea for how we could do this better with a product. I hear that all the time. And that's a lot of the businesses that end up coming to us are companies that have been sitting there, they've been stewing, and they've got a product concept, but they don't know how to build it and roll it out and do all of those elements. But for some companies, they need to sit back and create an idea. The other side of this principle of finding a spin-out idea is for those businesses that maybe have already stewed and come up with a couple of ideas. Before I would go into the process of investing in executing and researching, is why don't we come up with some more ideas and then evaluate those in some logical way to understand what our greatest opportunity is.
Yeah, so a vetting process to analyze and kind of, put a number on each of them for which would be the most greatest impact, least amount of work, that type of thing. So you can rank and determine which is the idea that you say, okay, let's do this.
And you know me, I love doing stuff in very logical, structured processes. And, it's easy for any company or leadership team to sit down in a room with a blank sheet of paper. But the hard part comes in actually turning that into something valuable. So instead of just, generic brainstorming, I like systemizing things. And that's a little bit of what we're going to be talking about, not only this principle, but throughout the process, is how do you systemize thinking through doing some of these things.
So I'm going to share with our audience a little bit of your superpower, and if I could say, I think Andy, one of Andy's true superpowers is the ability to, you have both the creative side and the logical side, and you do a really good job of blending those two. A lot of people don't have that, right? So they're very creative and have great ideas, but they don't have the process and the logical side to kind of turn that into some actual steps to make it happen, and that's what you're really good at. So why don't we go through kind of your process and what you got?
So if we're looking for spin-out ideas, the first place that I like to start is just the list and expand approach. And for services businesses, which is what we're really focused on, services companies that want to create products, this list and expand is really kind of taking the idea of your existing services, what are you offering, and breaking that into pieces. And again, this is just that first step. But as an example, I used an accounting firm because we all understand, basic concepts from something like that. But if we're an accounting firm and again, maybe we focus on a certain narrow industry, we do nonprofits, something else like that, so our service mix is different, and we'll kind of come to that in a little bit. But really taking something like, as an example, tax services, and how do you break that up into, we do document collection, tax preparation, and tax delivery. Very simple, but it starts creating, again, that foundation of what we do and breaking it up into smaller pieces that we can potentially find innovative ideas around. So a great first step is really getting people in a room and saying, okay, here's what we do as a company. That might be 4 things, it might be 10 things, but let's break that up into smaller pieces and expand that list.
So just kind of taking inventory of what it is that we do.
Exactly. And it gives us a list to kind of start with and go through this process. The next step is expanding upon that a little bit. And so really what it is we're looking from 3 main angles. The first one that we just did are our services and what we offer. The next 2 are customers and then internal. So what I like to brainstorm, we've got this list of services and things that we talked about, is we want to come in and look at customer challenges. So I want to really say, what do our typical clients, what are their biggest issues and challenges that they run into each day? And how do we list those, and especially related to our industry? So as accountants, we may say, one of the biggest issues is, collecting all your documentation, or maybe it's, finding a bookkeeper. It could be many different things that we're facing. The next is really internal challenges. What do your employees face to actually deliver solutions? And so really we now have a list of, here's what we do broken up into more more micro topics. We have pains and challenges our customers face, and then we have internal employee challenges to actually execute on what we do. And this gives us a great list to start looking at and brainstorming concepts for what innovations we can bring to the marketplace.
So you're saying with the internal challenges, you might have the ability to maybe serve others that do what it is you do.
And that is the biggest thing, is that the internal is an opportunity to maybe sell to your competitors.
Yeah, which is really cool, and I don't think a lot of business owners don't necessarily think about that just when they're thinking about how they can grow. So that's why I'm highlighting that, because I think that's brilliant, right? To be thinking, a totally different way to grow.
Well, when I think about it, I can be a service business that maybe is local, has some ceilings based off of, again, that kind of labor versus revenue, growth trend. But my opportunity could be is taking a secret of how I do what I do, turning it into a product and offering it at a huge scale to people that do what I do, and changing my business. It completely changes the approach, but it might be that catalyst that could really turn you from being, maybe a limited service business into something really significant. So definitely a great point.
Very cool.
And then really the next step, is examine and ideate. So, what I have here is that whole thing. We talked about taxes, and that first item was document collection. we may have a bunch of these different things that we listed, again, across services, client challenges, internal challenges. We really just want to break it up. So, the way that I look at it is defining it. So, as an example, under tax services, we had document collection. The first thing is gathering required documents for taxes to be prepared. It's a very simple statement of what it is. The next 4 things that I really try and get across are, what's the customer pain? Let's make sure we explore that. What's the impact to that audience? How much does this thing impact them and weigh heavy on their lives or whatever it might be? What's the opportunity to scale it? So is there a concept related to this that allows us to automate or scale it at a greater level in offering services? And then what's our opportunity to enhance it? Are there ways that we can take this idea and add something to it to make it better? And in the example of this document collection, the customer pain is small businesses often have to chase down documents from a range of places and people. So that's the challenge. And I know that when I do my taxes, I'm looking in different platforms, chasing stuff down. Impact to audience, while not a huge pain, it's a common distraction from the best use of their time. What business owner really wants to be spending time looking for documentation or even having other employees do it? And then the opportunity to scale. We often need to provide advisement on what documents are needed and when. A scalability concept would be to provide clear information on what and when it is needed based on your business or ownership type. So maybe you look at this document process and say, even one of the first things that's a challenge for businesses is knowing which documents they need, when they need them by, based on their type of business or the different services or the different structures that they have within their business. And even just providing that information and helping clarity there could be a scalable product that they can offer.
So it's knowledge, it's best practices.
Right.
That's really
maybe a system that helps them, and they choose their industry and it automatically gives them knowledge and guidance. And then the opportunity to enhance here is we could look to provide a historic library of documents that's searchable. A lot of times these are in PDFs, but you could build a system that scans those PDFs and makes it easy to find anything from the past that you had created, so that if you're going out for a loan to a bank, that stuff is just readily available in an instant and maybe even shareable with the bank. So again, this is taking one thing within a business, one of our
simple example,
hopefully list of 30 things, and gives us a structure to start coming up with some innovative product ideas that could really help scale the business. And so, as we go through this process and we do it with our leadership team, we may have a number of really unique ideas, which again will lead us eventually into our next principle in next week's episode, is how do we vet those ideas? So we have a really unique list of concepts that relate to our services, our customer pains, and our employee pains. And so now we can take all of those ideas and concepts that relate to that stuff and start vetting them to understand what's the greatest opportunity. But this first episode was definitely a lot more about just how do we ideate in a structured process.
Just get those ideas going and break them out.
Right.
I think it's exciting too, right? Getting those ideas going is great. And then the rest of these steps are going to help you take those ideas and start to turn them into something tangible, something real, give you a little bit of a game plan to work with.
Our next episode will be vetting them. So really, how do you score and evaluate all these ideas to understand the biggest and best opportunity for you? And then we'll be moving into things like market research, how do you plan out product development and really lead the whole way through to taking literally, as we're talking, a growth challenge, finding ideas, vetting them, planning them out, and then getting into some branding and marketing specifically for a new launch of a product. So the rest of the series is really going to take people through each of these, pieces.
I love it. Stay tuned, everybody.
All right, so thank you. Check out our site. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Comment on the show. We've got a contact form on there, email addresses, all of that fun stuff. And check out some of our past shows. We've got some really cool, awesome stuff out there. So next week, Friday, 4 o'clock, we'll have the next episode.
We'll see you there, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.